So when I think of what a progressive is today, I think of two different aspects of it. And this is just my opinion, and I'm really going to simplify it. But if you disagree with me, feel free to say so in the comments. So I think of progressives as, on one aspect, talking about the economics. They are less into capitalism and they don't think we should have a billionaire class. They think that we should have a much larger middle class and much less of a discrepancy between the poor and the rich, and that everybody has a right to housing, food, education, healthcare, childcare, those basic needs. And then the other aspect of modern day progressives would be more of what we call the culture wars. And this is the idea of people wearing their pronouns and having that in their email and having name tags with their pronouns, having DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion enacted in all employment capacities, to do these Me Too movements that we and share it all over social media. And I want to share a quick story about myself. I got married at 34 years old and really wanted to have children and really struggled and had to go through fertility treatment to have my first daughter. And I ended up having her when I was 37 years old. And the biggest struggle with going through fertility treatment was the economic side of it. I never ended up doing IVF. I used IUI, which is usually the first step, and that's about a few $1,000s a pop. I don't remember, but insurance, of course, doesn't cover any of it. And so I did that, and it was my fourth time, and I said, I'm not doing this again. And that's when I ended up getting pregnant with Nova. But so it all worked out for me, but I just remember the struggle of trying to decide how in debt I will go, how much money I will spend at the chance of having a baby. If I knew it would produce a baby, then I think I would just have spent any amount of money or gone into any amount of debt. But just the not sure and looking at the statistics, and I'm a very pragmatic person. And so just trying to figure out, like, once I have this baby, I want to be able to afford this baby, and then I don't want to be in mountains of debt. So it was just such a struggle. And truly, money would have solved everything, because even adoption is really expensive. My husband and I looked into the foster care system in order to eventually adopt. But the first thing we were told in the class was, if you're looking to adopt, this isn't the best place for you, because the foster system is, their number one goal is to reunite the kids back with their family. And if not the family that the kid was taken away from, but other members of the family, because we think kids do best with their biological families. And so that was heart-wrenching for me, who was very emotional at that time. And I'm thinking, oh, so even if I'm possibly able to adopt, I'm the last resort. Like, they want to do everything they can to avoid me being the one to adopt this baby. That's how it felt in my emotional time when I was trying to have a baby and wasn't seeing much success with that. So I say all this just to point out that money was truly the obstacle. There's so many options available to you if you have endless money when it comes to fertility. So even if it didn't work out, at least you know that you did everything you could to try to have a baby. And so when I was going through this and feeling sorry for myself, people would send me articles that were really well-intentioned, but it just frustrated me more, because hearing about Jennifer Aniston's struggle does not help me, because in my opinion, and then of course she has struggles being famous that I would never have to deal with, but I don't relate at all to somebody who has endless amounts of money, because that's my biggest obstacle in terms of having a baby. But when I watched the Me Too movement at its height, I couldn't help but think about all the victims at home who are abused by their dad or their stepdad or their mom's boyfriend or the 6-year-old girl across the street, or their babysitter or their coach or their teacher, their uncle. Most abuse victims are abused by somebody that they know. And most abuse victims don't have an abuser who has millions of dollars that they can go after. Most people's abusers have a normal job, or maybe don't have a job at all and live on disability. Who knows? But watching people on, even the true real survivors, watching them get justice is good for that person and that survivor. But again, how does that help the vast majority of people sitting at home, men and women, boys and girls, who don't have access to that? We don't have the money to hire the best attorneys, and no attorney is going to all these attorneys that you see on TV helping people out. They're not going to help out somebody who doesn't have any money. They get a lot of money from these cases. So even like Cassie, who was abused horrifically by Puff Daddy, and it still doesn't relate to people because they won't ever get the millions of dollars that she got. E. Jean Carroll, who sued Donald Trump. I didn't really follow that case. I hate Donald Trump. I don't need any reason to just keep hating him. So I don't know. At this point, with what I know right now, I think it's just as likely that it happened as it didn't happen. I just don't know. I could see both. But let's just say, for sake of argument, it did happen, and he did assault her years and years ago. Watching her on Rachel Maddow joking about going on a shopping spree and getting millions of dollars. I don't even know if she got millions or hundreds of millions, and I know he probably hasn't paid her any of that yet. But anyway, again, somebody sitting at home who's being abused by their mom's boyfriend, the third boyfriend that's abused them, and the boyfriend doesn't work and is, how is watching somebody get hundreds of millions on TV gonna help bring justice to that person who sits at home and who most people aren't that interested in? Because if you did sue your abuser, there's no money in it for anyone because he doesn't have any money.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money that you're about to get to help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel.
Okay, so what does this have to do with Amber Heard? After the trial, when it came out that even if you believe, you could still see everything that happened in that trial and still believe that she was abused by Johnny Depp. But there was no proof of that. There was only proof that she had abused him and that she had abused previous girlfriends. So even if she was a victim, we also know that she was a perpetrator of abuse. I don't think a perpetrator of abuse should be the spokesperson for ACLU's domestic violence, but she was, even after all of this came out, even after she lied to the court and lied to the public on talk shows saying that she donated all of this money to the ACLU, and it came out that she did not donate it. The ACLU still supported her and still had her as a spokesperson. And then all of the feminist organizations and feminist individuals like Gloria Steinem, who wrote a letter in support of Amber Heard after the trial, after maybe they didn't know, maybe they didn't watch it, but they should have watched the trial if they're going to write a letter in support of her. And I think this is one of the issues with these big groups and organizations, is that they don't do their homework and they just jump at any opportunity to support somebody who is saying that they're using these movements for good. NAACP is doing the same thing with Blake Lively. Let me explain. So Blake Lively's had some problematic behaviors in the past when it comes to racism or racial insensitivity. And her husband has too, by the way. His are worse, but I'm just going to talk about Blake Lively. So one incident is when she was still really young on Gossip Girl, she was joking about making her skin dark and stalking some guy she was interested in and pretending to be what she called a black girl. So
I'm a geek. See, he laughs at me. Well,
Can I just say one thing?
Excuse me. I have blonde hair.
When hot girls say they're geeks, it pisses me off because I truly am a geek, and I hate to live with that. You guys are.
Excuse me.
Yes, rebuttal.
Excuse me. My best friend and I, when we were in 10th grade, we had like crazy crushes. We would drive around, like stalk these guys. We decided one night to go to the arcade where they were, and I put bronzer all over myself in a Scary Spice fro, so I thought they would think I was like a black girl, and so I could stalk them. My friend dressed up as like this goth girl, and we literally sat outside their houses.
That makes you sweet. No, that makes you sweet and charming.
That's the plot of the
still
movie
hot.
Soul Man.
the other incident, or one of the other incidents of Blake being racially insensitive, is her obsession and love for everything antebellum Civil War era, which is when we had slavery, and her love of the South. So she had this whole website devoted to teas and fashion design and things with that aesthetic, that Southern antebellum aesthetic. And I don't even know if she realized, well, she must not have realized how racist this came across, because if she did, if her reputation is that important to her, she would never have done this in the first place. So I think she just was pretty ignorant about how that would look. And she, she loves her Southern antebellum era.
Of romanticizing slavery. This time, it was over a piece on her now-defunct lifestyle website Preserve titled Allure of Antebellum. Lively's name wasn't attached to the text, which celebrated the innate sense of social poise of the women of the pre-Civil War South, many of whom belonged to the slave-owning class. However, she did reportedly style the accompanying photos, which attempted to update the fashions of the 1800s for the modern age.
And to build on that, she loves her Southern antebellum era of the 1800s so much that she and Ryan chose to have a wedding on an actual plantation. And this got a lot of backlash, that they were, again, romanticizing slavery to the point that they were going to have their wedding at slave headquarters on a plantation.
Lively and Ryan Reynolds said I do. Unfortunately for the couple, the happy occasion was marred by their problematic choice to walk down the aisle at Boone Hall, a South Carolina plantation, a place synonymous, of course, with slavery. And it took 8 years for the pair to recognize the error of their ways. Reynolds apologized for their insensitivity in 2020, telling Fast Company, "It's impossible to reconcile. What we saw at the time was a wedding venue on Pinterest. What we saw after was a place built upon devastating tragedy." A few months prior, the Hollywood power couple had pledged $200,000 to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, announcing on Instagram, "We want to educate ourselves about other people's experiences and talk to our kids about everything, all of it, especially our own complicity."
Okay, so all good, right? Rich people donate some money to an organization that they had previously made comments or done actions that were opposing the values of so-called organization. And then they're all good with the organization and with the public, right? Because they donated money. Again, I always think, what about the people who truly are remorseful, but they don't have the money to donate? How do they show that remorse,
And thank you to every man, including my sweet husband, who are kind and good when no one is watching. And to all the communities across the gender, age, political, geographical, and racial spectrum who fight every day just to be safe. I see you, and I share tonight and my influence with you for as long as I have the ability to affect even one other person.
So years later, like 5 years, 6 years after they donated this $200,000 to the NAACP, the NAACP then nominated them for Time Magazine's, or nominated, Blake Lively for Time Magazine's influencer, or one of their top influencers of the year. And this was last year. So this was at the heart of the controversy with Blake Lively, where she was coming off as tone deaf and insensitive because of her marketing of the movie on domestic violence, and then the subsequent lawsuit with Justin Baldoni. All of that was at the height when she went and did her speech and used her mom's story that nobody understood to thank them for her nominee as Times Influencer of the Year, or Times Most Influential Person, or whatever it was. But of course, those of us following this case knew it was a joke, knew that she paid, or there was something that she did in order to get that nomination. Again, every single thing is a PR tactic. How do we build up our reputation? The law that she took over is about how to get her reputation. The lawsuit against Baldoni was all about getting back her reputation. I don't understand why she acts like a complete bitch in these interviews when there's cameras on, if she cares that much about her reputation. It just seems like she wouldn't care about her reputation. But again, that's what brought all of this on. Her reputation is very important to her. So these organizations that lift up, award, have people be spokespeople for their organization, it's just because they have money. That's the only reason they're doing it, because they have money. And so if the person, they could have done whatever horrifically racist thing in the past and then forgive them if they have the money to pay you. I don't know how this aligns with progressive politics when it comes to the financial aspect of that. It just, once again, seems to be that if you have the money, you can get away with everything. And if you don't have the money, sorry, but look at all these people who do have the money and all the justice that they're getting. Aren't you happy for them?